Deafrowe with Deafrowe Closed Caption and Deafrowe TV, and I'm back again with another review. This week's review is, of course, another Silent Night, Deadly Night. This time, number 4, called Initiation. In this one, before I get started with the review, hit that like and subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you see the last installment of the original Silent Night, Deadly Night that I will be releasing this Saturday, which is number 5, The Toy Maker. So be on the watch out for that. But tonight we're going to talk about number 4, Initiation. Let's get started with this review, shall we? This movie is starring Clint Howard as Ricky, and no, not the Ricky from the first 3 movies, which was the younger brother, by the way. It's just another random character named Ricky, and he plays the bum, and amongst other things in this movie. Alright, and then you got Neith Hunter, who plays the main reporter girl, Kim Levitt. Tom Hinckley, which plays Hank. Hugh Fink plays Jeff. Richard N. Gladstein plays Woody. Reggie Bannister. Names that if you're a horror fan at all, Reggie Bannister should ring a bell. Reggie Bannister is Reggie from Phantasm, the Ice Cream Man. He plays a character named Eli in this movie, though. Alice Beasley plays a woman named Janice, and then Maud Adams plays Fema, which is the main witch character in this movie that is trying to cause all this havoc and stuff during Christmas time. So, let's get started on this review. Silent Night, Deadly Night 4, Initiation, 1990, rated R. And it does, within the first 5 minutes, show us some boobs. So I'm going to try to fast forward through that as quick as I can. Because, every slasher's got a show some. Anyway, we start off here at the beginning of the movie at this building that's like, but you find out later, has like a meat market and a library next to it, oddly enough. And as you can see, Clint Howard is coming out of the edge of the building here, and he's just acting like he don't know what's going on and what everything's going on. And then he looks around and somebody just jumped off the building and landed on the ground, and she is burning on, like, half of her is on fire pretty much right there, as you can see. You see a little bit here as she fell, and Ricky's just kind of looking on like, what the hell? When you find out later, he's kind of part in the whole thing. And of course, he goes and hides himself or whatever. And we skip to like I said, the first 5 minutes they show a little bit of boobage, so I'm going to try to skip over this little part here. I apologize. It shows Kim's character, or Neith Hunter's character, Kim Levitt, and her boyfriend Hank making out and watching what's happened on TV, which is the lady that fell from the building and was burning up on the ground, and they just start having theories of like spontaneous combustion and that kind of thing. They don't think too much of it. And then of course Hank and Kim, they both work for this the same news reporting station or newspaper or whatever. And of course, the guy over the newspaper is none other than Reggie Bannister, right there, the man himself from Phantasm 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The good old Reggie Bannister, the Ice Cream Man, whatever you want to call him, the OG. Yes, he is in this movie. I thought that was cool. That's cool in my opinion. Anyway, this is Kim here. This is the main character, reporter. She's kind of pushing herself into this role of reporter. She wants to track down more information about this story, about this woman falling off the building, and she's basically like, in a guy's world, basically, with these reporting guys, and none of them are listening to her or whatever. And like they basically leave her out of the meeting, close the door on her or whatever, and then she goes over there and talks to Janice, and Janice like, boys will be boys, that kind of bullshit stuff. Anyway, further on, she decides to go ahead and just like go to the streets and talk to people about what happened the night before. And of course, she meets the meat store guy, or the meat, butcher, played by Glenn Chin, playing Joe the Butcher. And he's like, yeah, some strange things did happen. And he just basically thinks all the women around there are prostitutes for some odd reason, but whatever. Then she goes to the library and you meet up with, what's his face again? Clint Howard, playing in his character Ricky. And he's kind of like following her around the bookstore for some odd reason. She's getting freaked out by him. And then, of course, FEMA, she's there. She's like, yeah, don't pay no attention to him. And she, like, invites her to a picnic or some shit with some weird-ass book she hands her. She lets her go up on the roof first to, take a look and see what's going on up there and that kind of stuff. And Ricky's up there, too. And Ricky's looking down this little pipe or whatever, and all these ants are around it. And he reaches in the pipe to grab something, and she's, like, watching on to see what's going on. And he pulls out like this little worm-looking thing. Let's see if I can get a good shot of it here. Here, I'll just see if I can play it for this worm-looking thing here. This is gross. Yeah, that's great stuff. Thanks, Clint Howard. So we continue on. She gets home and she has like a roach infestation in her house going on. And she's trying to take care of it or whatever. And she goes meets her boyfriend Hank at their parents' house, and they're just like chit-chatting and stuff. And of course the dad's a complete chauvinist pig, as they like to portray most old guys like that with no hair on the top of the head. And basically yells at them about some bullshit, and then they leave or whatever. And so yeah, she leaves, like basically like borderline breaks up with him, I guess you could say, and then she heads out. And then she gets home, and then she starts having these delusions, and all these weird things start happening. There's this giant cockroaches like roaming around in her apartment, and she's trying to figure out like what's going on. And she's like poking at the cockroach. There's things like under her bed right there. Like, that son of a gun is huge. So if I get a good shot of it, I'll pause it as soon as I see it. Shit would freak me out. And of course, she puts herself in the bedroom, and then like the roach or whatever is like right outside the door of the bathroom. She's having all these convulsions and stuff. See if I can get a better shot of it right here. I think there's a good shot right here. Oh, maybe not. See that antenna at the left corner there? I'm trying to get it in a good shot here. See if I can get it right here. There it is, a ginormous bug. A ginormous cockroach. Just hanging out on the damn wall. Shit, it's weird. So far, I mean, this movie has pretty cool, practical effects or whatever. I thought it was pretty cool at least. I don't the bug shit freaks me out though. God, I hate bugs. But yeah, I mean, especially the stuff they do later on with the bugs. Anyway, Janice shows up the next day and is like, hey, what's going on? We ain't heard from you all morning or whatever. She's like passed out in the bathroom, that's why. Anyway, So Janice helps get everything picked up, and she decides to go meet those ladies at the park and basically do like an interview with them instead of going back to work that day. So she does that, and she's drinking some wine and stuff. She starts getting a little woozy with the wine, and I think they're trying to set her up for something. Not quite sure. And then, but something happens, and the boyfriend shows up. Hank shows up and like and gets her to come to work. And basically, Hank is making it up to her for the night before by talking to Eli, which is Reggie. I'm just gonna call him Reggie. I don't. Talking to Reggie about, hey, why don't we give her the story? She really wants to do the story. And so Reggie gives her the story finally. She'd been fighting for or whatever. And so Hank teams up with her and goes back to the building, and she's like, got her coat and hat on and everything, and he's taking pictures for her, all the stuff she wants taking pictures of, and she's writing stuff down and all this time, but like a real reporter. I just thought it weird that they had to put a hat and a coat on her for this part. That just seems kind of odd. It's like, now she's a real reporter. It's like she was already doing this. I don't know. It was kind of odd. And she meets up with FEMA in her apartment, which was right above the bookstore, which is below the roof they were just standing on. And she basically drugs her with some stuff in this tea. She starts having these weird ass hallucinations. The bug stuff starts to come back, and then of course, she's burning up and all this other stuff. And come to find out, they're doing the witches ceremony on her out of the blue. The old lady and everybody else just shows up in the apartment and says, "Hey, we're gonna do this ceremony." And she like has this thing coming up out of her mouth right at this moment. I don't know if I can catch it here or not. If I can do it right here. Oh, that crap there. That is so messed up. So yeah, not cool. And then of course they cut it in half when it comes out of her mouth or whatever. And then just put the goo all over her face for some odd reason. And then she wakes up and like nothing's happened. She's still in her clothes and everything. And they basically stripped her naked to do all that. And then the lady's like, "Hey, you gotta finish. We gotta finish up what we started. She tries to escape. She escapes. Makes it to makes it over to Hank's place. I think this is Hank's place. No, I think this is her place, but Hank is there. And Hank's like, "Hey, what's going on?" or whatever, and she's freaking out. And Hank's trying to protect her, and all of a sudden, they're getting nice with each other. And all of a sudden, Ricky shows up. And Ricky's like, "Hey, you got to come back and finish this ritual. We can't be. You're gonna burn up and all this other stuff if you don't finish this ritual." And of course, Hank is like telling him to get out and all this other stuff. So he just like starts wailing on Hank, doing everything he can to mess Hank up. First thing he does is bite his ankle like this. It's crazy. And then of course he starts stabbing Hank with a knife. And he ties her up. And of course Hank is killed by Ricky with a little knife. And Ricky's like, "I had to do it. He was getting in my way." And then, of course, Janice shows up. And then it's when you figure out that Janice is kind of in on the whole thing. And she, like, unties her. It's like, "No, go do the right thing. You got to go finish that ceremony or whatever." So she convinces Ricky that she's going to go back without a fight. And she does. She goes back without a fight. And she ends up... she ends up back in the... It's like a meat freezer or whatever. And Ricky's got this weird ass mask on with what on the end of his face. And they do this ritual in there. She wakes back up and this weird stuff happens to her, and like she's like basically put into like this cocoon from the waist down or something, and this weird stuff happens with her hands, like they're all flexible and stuff. And the butcher shows up the next day. It's like, what are you doing in here? And he knows what's going on because the woman behind her is like, you know what she's here for, or whatever, and gives her clothes back or whatever. She puts them on and goes back to the library. And there's like, there's one more part to this ritual. It's like you should have told me this from the very beginning that this thing had so many damn parts. And now they're telling her at this point in the game, if you don't go get this kid, which is, I think it's Hank's brother, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Don't know his name for some reason. Anyway, it ends up being Hank's brother. And you see him when they're meeting their mom and dad for their little Christmas to get together or whatever. Anyway, that she tells her that she's got to go get Hank's brother and he's got to be a sacrifice or she's going to burn from the waist down and die. Gotta finish it, whatever. So she's trying to convince you gotta go get that boy. But instead of going to get that boy, she goes and gets a detective trying to find out what's happened to Hank. But when the detective shows up at the apartment and she's trying to show him like all what happened the night before, he can't find anything. Anyway, so she's like, whatever. So then she goes to work for some odd reason. I guess she decided to go to work that day. And of course, all the people in work are just like making fun of her and stuff because they're like, hey, you got to complete the ritual. Reggie's like, hey, you got to, just finish what you started or whatever. It's a Christmas party of some sort for the thing. Anyway, everybody in that room, including Reggie and Janice now, they know what she's supposed to be doing. And that's why she ends up slapping him right here. Or slapping him. And then Janice is like, yeah, you got to finish the ritual or whatever. And she gets out of that Christmas party. And of course, old Ricky's like, look, you got to do what she says or you're going to burn up or whatever. So, time to kidnap the Hank's brother. And that's what they end up doing is they go to the house. They're, opening presents or whatever. And she goes in there and she's like, yeah, I'm going to take you. The brother thinks that Hank is visiting and she gets him to come outside and get in the van. He's like, we're going to take you to Hank or whatever. And then Ricky ends up killing the parents for some odd reason. Like he had no real reason to be there. And of course, now they're on top of the roof where that little tree is again, and they're going to try to do a child sacrifice. And they're all setting it up and everything. She doesn't want to do it. She's like, it's just a boy, whatever. So she ends up, stabbing the main witch, what's her name? Fema in the gut. Right here. Like that. And so, she stabs Fema in the gut right here instead of the boy, which causes a reaction from her, and she starts like trying to burn her up or whatever. And then finally, forget who shows up. Old Ricky gets involved. Ricky doesn't want the redhead to go away either, because he had his way with her already. Damn it! And something happens. I can't remember. Yeah. So basically, she ends up. Ricky causes somewhat of a distraction or whatever, and is able to get her away from him for a little bit. And she uses the illusion that she's pulling on her and stabs her again in the gut, and then pushes her off the roof, and she dies. And then, of course, Ricky doesn't fare much better. Yeah, this is the weird hand thing that was happening every time. Like, oh my God, what's going on with my hands? That was a weird thing. I'm trying to show you a picture of what happens to Ricky. Ricky gets it pretty bad. course, she hits the pavement. Boom! You could tell that's a damn doll or dummy or whatever that is. Kind of funny. Yeah, I was trying to show you a little bit of what happened to Ricky. We know what happened to her. She's burning up. Let's see if I can find what happened to Ricky here. Ricky! Because Ricky tried to intervene. Yeah, you got these little slug things right here. And then they're approaching him. Try to go back just enough. He tries to, yeah, he tries to intervene or whatever, and he gets stabbed. And then he's basically killed by FEMA. And then guts everywhere, and then he falls in this little tent thing, and all these little maggot looking things come out and start eating on him. Yeah, crazy stuff. And of course, and that's pretty much the end of this one. Like, they basically end it with her killing the main witch, and her and the boy going, like, her telling the boy, like, let's go home. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm pretty sure Ricky burned your house down. You ain't got no home to go back to, little boy. And Hank is dead as well, so I don't know what's going to happen here. It's kind of a bad ending, to be honest with you. Did get the main witch out of the story, though. That was kind of funny. Anyway, I don't know. And this one's pretty on par with the last one I did. I give this one 3 out of 5 stars. I mean, it's great that they went this. They could have called it something else other than Silent Night, Deadly Night, to be honest with you, because it really, I mean, there was really not that many. It'd be cooler if there was still like some type of Santa Claus roaming around with an axe killing folks like the first movie, but this had nothing to do with being a slasher. It was just, this went into the supernatural realm of witching type stuff, and yeah, went all kinds of weird on this one, but still pretty good in my opinion. So I give it like I said, 3 out of 5, and that's my review. That is Silent Night, Deadly Night 4 Initiation, and I'm Deafrowe, and I'm out.